Hello, welcome back to Knowing Who. Oh, that was nice,
The
wasn't it?
Podcast.
The Knowing Who podcast. We're back, episode 3.
Yes, it's been a long 2 weeks.
Yeah. Ben kept having a go at me saying, we should be doing this weekly. And I was like, no, we need to hold our ground.
I still think we should.
I just can't be arsed.
If listeners at home, you think we should be doing this weekly, tweet in and tell off Miles, and then maybe we will.
Maybe we will. Please don't. I like to have some semblance of work-life balance. Not that this is work. This is lovely.
This is life.
But yeah,
podcast is life.
Podcast is life. So speaking of which, thanks again to everyone for the lovely response that we've been getting to the pod. We're really having some lovely traction around it.
The other day, someone asked about great podcast recommendations. Nothing to do with the official Doctor Who YouTube channel or podcast. No, I have nothing against them. Sure, but people are just sort of recommending us to people online, which is brilliant.
Which is lovely.
Among the ranks of long-established Doctor Who podcasts. Yeah, so that's really lovely.
Long may it continue. Hope so. So do keep in touch with us and letting us know what you think of the pod, and we love hearing it. Also, before we get stuck into our 2 episodes of the week. We have some interesting little news, stuff that's been going on in the past 2 weeks. There's 2 fantastic events coming up, both of which we'll be attending.
We will be going to.
Yeah. One of which
together.
we were manifesting in episode 1.
Yep.
My mum, shout out to you, Mum, if you're listening to this. She was listening to episode 1 like the other week. After we've got these certain tickets, and she went, your manifesting worked. And I went, it did. Yeah. Because we, ladies and gentlemen, have managed to get tickets for the Doctor Who prom.
In August this year.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I'm beyond excited. I've not been since 2010. You've not been since
I went in 2013.
Yep. So it's going to be a real blast from the past.
Yeah.
We'll be at the morning one.
Yeah, well, early afternoon.
The
matinee.
I think it's number 47 officially.
Yes,
and then 48 is the one
in the evening
after the fact.
Yeah, and we have plans. We've got plans for an episode proms based.
Yeah.
We're going to be recording in the hall or outside the hall, something like that. I think
we'll be doing little bits on the day. We're going to be. We've got big plans for a proms episode.
If you're going to be there, feel free. We'll even give you a little interview.
Who knows? Who knows? But we want to hear stuff from you as well, so more on that as it comes. And as well as the proms, we had the news, I think only a few days ago, that the finale of this season that we're getting at the minute is going to be screened in cinemas nationwide. Not just like the odd boutique one if you can get there, like no, like Odeon's views, cinemas, like everything.
And Cineworld, which they originally said they wouldn't be doing it, and they got peer pressured in by all the Doctor Who fans to do it.
That's what we're about. That's what we're all about.
And have you ever I think we talked about this the other day, but have you ever seen Doctor Who in the cinema?
No, I haven't. I've not seen new Doctor Who in the cinema. I have seen classic Doctor Who in the cinema at BFI trips. Shout out to Pete, Richard and Josh, my BFI mates. But no, when it comes to the new series...
I only saw Deep Breath after missing out on the 50th, because I couldn't see the 50th.
Was it in 3D Deep Breath? No, it wasn't.
No, just normal old HD on a cinema screen. It was fine. Deep Breath was... an interesting episode.
It's a long one as well, isn't it? It's like 70 minutes or something like that.
Is it?
I think so, yeah. You're going to go for your phone now and check IMDb or something, aren't you?
Because I don't know if that's true.
But I mean, that was the reason, I guess, it was chosen as another cinema release. Partly because of the success of Day of the Doctor.
My guess
obviously.
at the time was, it was the Day of the Doctor.
And they went, let's get more.
They were trying to capitalise on the 50th.
Yeah,
boom.
Yeah. I remember when Day of the Doctor was announced as being in the cinema, and the
76 minutes, Oh,
there we are. I was underplaying it. Wow.
I never noticed.
But I remember when Day of the Doctor was announced coming in the cinema, and even though it was this big anniversary celebration, I was 13 at the time, and I was like, if I'm going to watch Doctor Who, it's going to be at home on the sofa as I've always watched it. No. And nowadays, obviously, I'm like, watch Doctor Who in the cinema with a load of fans. Absolutely.
I was so jealous because I couldn't sit. They didn't do it in Dubai. They did it worldwide in cinemas.
It was just not in Dubai. All sorts of world records of the biggest global simulcast.
And I really wanted to watch it. And then I've gone back and I've watched the bits on YouTube of them in the cinema. Because David and Matt do a pre-intro bit, and then Strax does make sure to wear your glasses and things like, and not to put your phones on.
Yeah.
and maybe we'll get some of that as well.
I'm hoping for maybe they'll play Unleashed afterwards. Maybe Russell will give us a little message being like, "Hello, faithful viewers, you're sat in the cinema." Ooh.
Exactly.
Who knows?
And of course, the wonderful Millie Gibson put a screenshot of the actual showing that we have tickets for on her Instagram story.
It's really exciting how big this finale is going to be, and they're not just screaming. They're not just screaming.
They're not screaming.
Well, maybe we will be screaming. Depends what it's like.
Like a Marvel movie.
But oh my God, shut the hell up! Have you seen that clip of the Star Wars?
Yes.
Yeah. They're going to be screening not just Empire of Death. It's going to be Legend of Ruby Sunday. Going into the big finale.
So that'll mean we won't have to rewatch it sometime during the week.
Yeah.
We'll just watch it in the cinema.
God, we're going to be knackered. Absolutely knackered.
Yeah.
I've never done a midnight premiere of anything.
You've never done midnight?
No, in the cinema. I've never.
Yeah. I did Batman, the new Batman, a couple of years ago.
Madman.
It was almost 3 hours long. I didn't get home till about 4 a.m.
I went to see the Batman and I got COVID days following, so I've got a bit of a stigma against that film.
Fair
not
enough.
a fan.
Good movie. I like it.
Yeah. Right, thankfully, we're not talking about the Batman today. We are talking about Boom.
Yes.
And 73 Yards.
We'll
get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
So Boom, return of a certain Scottish writer. I think he's
What's
written
his name again?
I don't know.
What's that guy?
Mevan Stoffat or something like that.
Mevan Stoffat.
Of course, faithful listeners, we are talking about Stephen Moffat, the one and only, who is
his
back.
grand return
to Doctor Who.
Let me just say, we are so back.
You tweeted this.
I keep saying it. We are so back.
So, for context as well, listeners, usually Ben and I will try and avoid talking to each other about the episodes before we sit down and do a record. So obviously Boom was a bit more difficult because we had to wait a whole week.
It's been a whole week, yeah.
But I kind of worked out what Ben felt about this episode, given the fact that he tweeted from the Knowing Who account saying, we are so back.
I should have been a bit more discreet on that account.
So I'm guessing you weren't a fan then?
I hated it. No. It's a huge contrast from where we were 2 weeks ago.
God, it is.
When we last recorded Knowing Who. So I think even though we were being hopeful, we both weren't the happiest with the first 2 episodes of the series.
I think we thought they were fine. In summary, I suppose. Yeah. And we didn't want to get our hopes up too much.
Exactly, just in case it was all awful. But after these 2 episodes, but after Boom especially, I was suddenly just so excited. I was so happy that Doctor Who was back and it was good. Because after so many years of disappointment, it's actually good again.
He said it, not me.
I know, he didn't say it. Don't tweet him.
So you obviously were a fan.
Big fan. On rewatch, because there were people online who said, after the first watch it was great, second one I'm not so sure. On rewatch I still love it.
How many times have you watched it?
I've only watched it twice.
You've only watched it twice?
Yeah.
I've watched it thrice, actually.
You've watched it thrice?
Yeah. I watched it the second time with Izzy, and then I watched it a third time for this to write notes.
Yeah.
Not when I was at work and should have been doing things.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So, where to begin? Let's start with Moffat because that's the kind of the main change here. Because we've had an episode written by Russell since Starbeast, basically, haven't we?
Yes.
So this is the first.
Basically, every episode so far has been Russell, hasn't it?
Isn't it weird to think that since, forgetting guest co-writers, since Haunting of Villa Diodati, would it be? We've not had an episode that's not been written by one of the 3 showrunners. Yeah. I know there was co-written episodes in Flux, but Chibnall, Davies and Moffat. It's so weird to think since 2021, 2022.
Yeah, we haven't had a guest.
Yeah.
Right, except, we still haven't sort of, because, we have. No, we still haven't, because Moffat, sure, he was a guest writer.
He was an exec producer on the show.
He was an exec producer on the programme, and he used to be a showrunner. So we still haven't had, a fresh eyes on Doctor Who since Diodati.
And speaking of
2020, that's 4 years.
Yeah. So speaking of this sort of fresh idea, you could really tell that this was Moffat.
Yes,
I feel
instantly. I've written that down. It's Moffat-y. It's so Moffat-y with the dialogue and the fast paced and the jokes and the sort of them making fun of each other. It's very sort of 12 and Clara.
Very 12 Clara.
Yeah.
But what I did like about Shooty and Millie is they did put a different spin on it. I don't think they were quite as quick, like bam bam, as maybe Matt and Karen or Peter and Jenna would have been. I think they kind of tried altering the pacing a little bit, but you're so right. You could instantly hear this was Moffat dialogue. There was so many lines that you were like, well, there you go, that's Moffat. Do we like that or not? Do we like being able to hear the writer?
See, objectively, it's probably not a good thing that we can tell that someone else has written this, but I loved it. So like, it was good. I don't know.
It almost felt like you're in.
It was almost nostalgic.
Yeah. I think so too. I was telling a lot of people. I said, people who I've chatted to and said that, I loved the Matt Smith era, or I loved, those episodes of Peter Capaldi. I was like, you're going to love this. It's essentially a Matt Smith episode with, the window dressing of this new era. Not to say that it's not doing new things. It's not a bad thing at all. But it's just, very much of that
and
era.
I was talking to someone in work the other day, and they walked in and they said, because I was telling them about the podcast and about Doctor Who's coming back, and they were excited, and I said to her, have you watched it? Oh no, she actually said to me, what do you think of the first two? She hadn't watched Boom yet, and I went, oh well, they were fine, they were a bit crap maybe, but it's getting there. But episode 3, brilliant, really good. And then she said, oh yeah, I watched them, I wasn't really a fan, it wasn't great, but I'll watch episode 3. I wasn't going to, but now that you've said that, I will. And then she said, I used to love it when Matt Smith was the Doctor, and I sort of said, well this is great. I mean, you'll really love it. And it's definitely got like big Moffat energy, which is weird because I remember at the time getting really tired of the Moffatisms, Moffatisms.
Same.
But then here I am now thinking, isn't this brilliant? So I don't know.
It's the power of nostalgia, and also I think that people have always had that idea in their head, whether it's wrong or right, that Moffat is better placed as a guest writer as opposed to a showrunner.
People have said that for years.
Some people don't. Some people really love that era, and I mean I'm a big fan of it too. But it's certainly, even you look at the episodes that he had when he was doing that initial run with Russell at the helm. And you're like, well, it's just banger after banger, really, isn't it?
And even in our first episode of this, I said, what my favourite story is probably Silence in the Library, which is another Moffat story. So in Russell's era, Moffat
I was chatting about Blink the other day with Richard and Stephen Noonan, who plays the First Doctor.
Oh.
And I was just saying,
in high places.
You know me. But I was saying about
amount of people who have talked to Big Finish in some form.
We do,
multiple people.
It's weird. We're finding connections. But I was talking about Blink and sort of saying that as when I was younger, it was one of those ones that I was always like, I mean, it's fine, because I was always reluctant to admit how good it was. And then you go back to it now, and it's just, that is fantastic television. And like Moffat said back then, when you've got a good Doctor Who episode when you're like, well, I've just blown that feature film idea right away.
And he says it all the time. I think
he probably says it for Boom as well.
Yeah.
Because what a clever idea to be like. I mean, it's.
Should we talk about the episode now?
Yeah, let's talk about the episode now. It is a little bit inspired by a certain old Doctor episode.
Yes.
Are you aware of this?
Yes.
Genesis of the Daleks.
Yes, when he steps on a landmine and he says,
"How do you have stepped on a landmine?" That was more Peter, really. That wasn't it? Not so much Tom.
But salami sandwiches. I've stepped on a landmine. Who knows? Who knows?
Yes.
Sorry, bad Doctor Who impressions aside.
That's what people come here for. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly why people come here.
But yes, sorry, the episode. Yeah.
The episode. Moffat is back. We've just said that, but it's really clear because you've got things like the clerics are back. The soldiers, the Church of the Papal. I don't know. These probably aren't the Papal Mainframe. That's a different organisation.
That is a different. These are the clerics from Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone.
Think the Papal Mainframe guys are like a spin-off. Like how Protestantism is a spin-off of Catholicism, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Villengard's back, or Villengard, as Shooty keeps saying. I quite liked that. Everyone else saying it a different way.
I quite liked that because it was a bit like I was going to say Matabelis. It's a bit like Matt saying Metabolus 3 as Metibulus 3. Metibulus 3. Yeah, which obviously
is a much better impression.
Thank you.
Than your Fourth Doctor. And it's anti-capitalist, just like Oxygen was.
Oh, yeah.
Was there more capitalism jokes in the Moffat era? Because I can only really think of Oxygen. Series 10.
That's the one I was drawn to as well, but it's very much his kind of
I'm
thing.
still blind.
Yeah. You've got fish fingers and custard.
Yes, of course. Which I thought at the very end, jumping right to the end, but I thought that fish custard joke was a bit too much. You're really pandering.
But
here
everyone will know that.
Yes,
everyone will go.
Everyone will
I
know
remember the fish custard thing.
But then if you think about it too hard, which I often do, you've got, the whole point of the 11th hour was my taste buds have changed. But now he still loves fish custard, which is a bit strange.
If once you're hooked on fish custard, you are.
Have you ever
hooked.
Tried it? I've never done it.
You never done it?
I don't like custard.
You're not a proper fan then if you've not done that before.
Well, Matt didn't do it either. He used coconut stuff.
Coconut things, yeah. But genuinely, it's actually it's very nice though. When the actual, Anyway,
back to the episode.
Speaking of the Doctor,
can
we just quickly say how I think that this is Ncuti's best performance so far?
This is his moment. This is the episode that's got me. This is the Doctor.
Yeah.
This is the Doctor.
This would be a great audition piece, wouldn't it? The whole episode for a Doctor.
The whole episode.
Genuinely, like the whole, like as a stage play.
This should have been the first one. No, I don't know if that's true, but
I don't quite agree with that. I think we needed the build up to it.
It was brilliant. He was brilliant in this. I really enjoyed his performance in this, 100%.
In the position he was in, both that position of vulnerability, but also what I really liked was it was that kind of forced self-preservation, which is just very much against what the Doctor's like. The Doctor will, unless it's 13 going, it's all right, you can hold this bomb and I'll just run off and fly away with the fam.
A lot of people have said if it was 13 on that landmine, she would have just
stepping your foot
with someone else.
But for Ncuti, you got that particularly, and there was a moment when the ambulance was coming towards him, and initially you kind of on the surface it looks like he's like, get that thing away from me, it's gonna hurt me. But you realise, well, no, he wants that thing to get away from him, because if it does anything to him, it's going to set that thing off. So to see the Doctor in that position where they'll always be the one to be like, go save yourselves, or it's all right, let it get me, to see them forced to be like, I have to protect myself because otherwise everyone's going to die.
Everyone's dead.
It's such an interesting mindset. I loved that, and I thought Ncuti played it so well, and the tears actually were.
So I was going to mention,
here.
So a lot of people in certain other podcasts are very critical of the tears. I personally don't mind. I don't really care. But in this episode, I thought they were very well placed.
Yeah,
he's literally going to murder thousands, if not tens of thousands of people.
He's been here before. Look back to the Time War.
He's done his healing. But he doesn't want to go through it again. Which makes perfect sense in my eyes.
So it's a real. I love when the Doctor gets put through the ringer. I love this. I loved torturing the Doctor. It's just the best. Because you really get everything out of them, and Ncuti really was at the heart of this one, just like Millie was at the heart of 73 Yards. Ncuti was.
There are good two stories to put together.
100%. It works so well. It's like Midnight and Turn Left, isn't it? Really. Literally. It's a bottle episode combined with a companion-centric one.
But it's not the same reason, because with Midnight and Turn Left, they were shooting them at the same time. But this was different, and we'll get it to that when we get to 73 Yards.
Textually, to have those kind of like a Doctor-focused one when they're kind of restricted to this one spot, followed by a one where the Doctor's taken out of the mix and the companion's at the heart of it. It's a very... those two are fantastic episodes anyway, so no wonder you'd be like, well, that formula works quite well, let's try it again. Fantastic from Ncuti. And also, hot take, best costume, I think.
Yes, I saw you put that on Twitter.
And everyone agreed.
Everyone agreed.
Apart from some people who were like, what are you talking about?
So not everyone agreed.
I
personally like his Christmas episode, Christmas outfit the most.
I do like that one as well.
The one that's going to be on my shelf in a couple months, hopefully.
I can't wait. Apparently they're out in October, so
that's what I've read,
it might be my birthday dollies. Love it.
Oh, okay. They're going to be so expensive.
But I just love the kind of action man look almost. Like when he ran across the battlefield, I was like, that's the Doctor. And it just works.
Talking about that bit where he runs across the battlefield, 15's theme.
I
love it. I'm used to it now. I hear it and I go, oh, I know what's happening. I know who it is. I know everything that's going on just by hearing that music, which I used to love about I Am the Doctor before it got completely overused. And I missed it in Jodie's era. I know Jodie 13 had her theme, but it was never used in the same sort of way.
Sagan kind of used it. I'm not going to say more cleverly, because that's not what I mean. But he would kind of use it. He'd manipulate it to suit the scene or the tone or whatever. Yeah. So it was harder to pick out.
But I don't think there was ever that moment.
But there was never a big.
It would play the theme, and it was a joyous occasion.
Until her regeneration, I felt that it was really well placed for that.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, but it was completely different. But we're not going to bash the Jodie era anymore. In this episode, at least.
No. We've already said that she'd stand on a landmine. She'd get someone else to stand on a landmine for her. So yeah.
What I was going to say next, though, after that bit where he runs onto the landmine, the title sting, the perfect, hilarious, and it was funny
as it was. As the landmine sort of counter was spinning up, and it did it with the sting. It was just,
and then it cuts to his face, and he's terrified.
Oh yeah, it really throws you in. It's like boom,
it's
here we are.
A very tense moment, but also really funny, and it's like the perfect Doctor Who sting. Like it's almost like a next time, except it was just before the titles.
That's what Moffat says. He's like, you're basically writing episode 1 in the space of 5 minutes. Yeah, and that's your part 1. Before the titles, so
it was great.
Yeah. I can't imagine, because Moffat said that he originally had the Doctor ending up on the landmine like 10 minutes in. It's like I can't imagine
what would that episode be like.
What would have been
what would have actually happened in those 10 minutes.
It's almost like he must have done that as a warm up, and when he realised what am I doing, he was like, well, at least I've got the feel for the characters now, and I can just torture them for the rest of the script. Yeah, so Ncuti, I think, is a big tick. Millie, I don't think got as much to do here,
no,
other than a very significant moment.
Not in the beginning, or do you mean the whole episode, or just the beginning?
I mean, predominantly for the whole thing, really.
No, I mean, she does get shot halfway through it, and then is lying on the floor for the rest of the episode. So I suppose you're right.
But I will say that Ruby being shot was such a fantastic shock moment.
I wasn't expecting
it.
It
was I.
It was I mean, even on the second watch, and I knew it was coming. It's still sort of heart wrenching.
Yeah,
and it was just perfectly done with the slow-mo and the topple and just the surprise of the shot and Ncuti's face, Ncuti's expression. It's just perfect, that sequence.
It was.
I love it.
Yeah, I
just love the episode.
And you realise how much you actually surprisingly care for this companion, which we've only known for 4 episodes.
4 episodes. Yeah.
So it's a real gut punch moment, and I mean the whole episode is just kind of a masterclass in tension, because there's always something else to up it, whether it's just the Doctor wobbling on one leg, to then suddenly having to put his foot down, to then suddenly having the kid run in, to then suddenly having a gun put in his face, and then to have his best mate shot and killed for all intents and purposes in front of him.
Yeah, and trying not to react so that he doesn't blow up the planet.
But the reaction that Ncuti has, that sort of guttural, it's like you can tell that he just wants to scream,
and you can
right
feel
now.
It. You can feel it in yourself.
Yeah. It's a fantastic moment, a real standout. But speaking of companions,
yes,
what did you think of that surprise moment when, oh my God, there's Varada Sethu?
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't notice.
Did you not?
Until I watched Unleashed afterwards, and they made a big deal about it in Unleashed. And I thought,
right.
So, I mean, she does, to be fair, she looks very different.
She's got hair.
She's got her hair completely different.
She's wearing a bandana.
And she's wearing a military uniform, which I wasn't expecting. And she's got a different name.
Yeah.
I won't say her name in the programme, but we have heard on set she's got a different name.
Oh, really?
She's not called Mundy.
I didn't know that we'd heard the name.
Maybe it's a placeholder. Maybe they'll ADR over it. But as far as we know, it's a different character.
Sure.
Which leads me on to my question of, what do you think's going on? Do you think this is a Clara moment or a Freema Martha moment?
Yeah, the latter. I think that it's just a case of they cast her, they thought she's pretty good, and either auditioned her separately or just offered her straight up. We're like, would you like to stick around for a bit?
Yeah. I'm assuming it's coincidence.
Is coincidence.
Another coincidence.
There's Goblin in the studio now.
Maybe it's just another coincidence.
Maybe.
I have things for the next episode as well for coincidences.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
okay. Well, there we go. What did you think of her as a both performance and the character?
She was pretty good. She was very good.
Yeah. There wasn't an awful lot to grasp onto. I felt like the love interest thing was a bit kind of like, well, we've kind of done this, and is this the only thing to your character? You know, that you fancy this guy and you just don't want to say it. And
Does she fancy him?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that was the big reaction that she has.
At the start of the episode, she doesn't fancy him. I think that's pretty outright.
Yeah, but is it just that typical Moffat thing of their flirting being that, like,
they must be,
well, I don't like you, I don't like you, and it's like, oh, actually, we really like each other.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously loves her.
Yeah,
I mean, he says that in his message.
Does he? Oh, did he spell it out very deliberately? Yeah, he did, didn't he?
But she doesn't really. I think she has a realization after he dies that she cares for him, but I don't know if she outright.
Maybe there's more to it than that. But I felt like, in terms of character stuff, that was the only insight we got into her character.
Yeah. And that she knows Splice.
That's
about it.
But again, there was no real reaction to, like. But then, because they're sort of these Anglican Marines, there was this whole thing about being gathered up and stuff. Maybe death just doesn't mean as much. But then why would she react in that way when...
Yeah.
Is it Canto?
Canto, yeah.
Canterbury's like the full name,
He's got a full name, but Canto is what they call him.
Yeah, so why would she react so viscerally to that and not to the fact that Splice's dad has been killed? The whole the whole faith and religion thing, I'll admit, I think was quite a muddied commentary. I didn't quite know what Moffat was trying to say with it.
No,
and I don't think he knew what he was trying to say with it.
A lot of people have brought up online, like, a lot of questions. Like, they make a good point in the review of Death. Have you listened to?
I have. Yeah. I think they make really interesting points about it.
Because I'm not a practicing Christian. I was raised Catholic, but I'm not practicing it really, and I didn't really think about it until after I heard other people talking about it. But on the review of Death, they make a valid point. Like, if they were to meet the Doctor apparently would be very prejudiced against them because they have a religion.
Yeah. But then
it's a really weird thing.
It's because faith and religion kind of get interchanged here, and it's like, so is the Doctor saying they're the same thing? Is he saying they're different things? But
then there's if you think back to the Moffat era in the God Complex, he literally says, even though I think he ends up being wrong, believe in your faith, it will save you. Faith is a good thing. So he's completely U-turned on that, I guess. Which is
it's kind
weird.
of like he I feel like Moffat probably went, well, I'm coming back to Doctor Who. I'm going to put in as much references to my old episodes as I can. So he obviously went Villain Guard, Fisher Custard and all that sort of stuff, and went, oh, clerics, that'd be great. I might as well use them if it's a war zone.
Of some kind.
But I think he probably started off with the fact that, I'll bring the clerics back, and then was like, I guess I should make a religious commentary or a faith commentary while they're there, which he didn't really do as much in Flesh and Stone Time of Angels, and yet I kind of felt that they were handled quite nicely there, because it was like, have faith and all that sort of stuff, and the whole Sacred Bob, Scared Bob stuff. I thought that was handled a bit better back then, whereas now it just felt like...
It's very outright.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's commentary for commentary's sake, and you don't know what you're doing.
It's noticeable, which commentary shouldn't be, really.
Yeah.
Unless you think too hard about it.
It's noticeable, and yet I don't know what he's trying to say with it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
But the capitalism stuff, I thought, that's brilliant. That was brilliant.
That was
That's
hilarious,
fantastic.
some of that.
Yeah.
And there's even a bit where the soldiers, right at the start, before the Doctor even arrives, they say, oh, the algorithm is going haywire right now. So even they're aware that this corporate algorithm is wrong in some way, even if they don't feel...
Because they're scared of the ambulance, right?
Yeah, they know that the ambulance is going to kill him.
Yeah.
They know that for a fact, and they put it down to the algorithm going haywire, which presumably means normally the ambulances wouldn't kill them.
Yeah.
So... I don't know. And I don't know how none of them come to the conclusion that the Doctor comes to.
Yeah.
I think it's really obvious.
Yeah.
Maybe because they're blindly following faith. That's the commentary, I suppose.
But then what faith? Like, it's not like they're saying anything to suggest that they're not saying we're still fighting this war because we have faith in God that it's the right thing to do. They never. And I know they shouldn't say they don't have to say explicitly, but it's just it's a very good idea, a great twist.
Yeah.
It's just it feels like if you're gonna do that, you do need to do a bit more world building to kind of make that land a bit more.
I feel
so otherwise, when you think surface level, first watch, great, love it. It's like fantastic twist, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But the more you think about it, the more it starts to fall apart. And I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like that he could have made the same point with any old army.
Yeah,
like just following orders,
and kind of thinking, like, oh well, our general on high,
exactly,
is telling us to do this.
Make it into a World War II allegory.
Yeah.
Or if this was written in 2024 instead of being written in 2021, 2022, you could easily make it into a very topical reference as to what's going on in the Middle East right now. Like, it would have worked perfectly well as just a military thing.
Rather than the religious stuff on top of it.
But he's got the clerics and he brought the clerics back because it's a Moffat thing, which I'm perfectly fine with, to be honest.
So do you see what I mean? It feels like he brought them back and then went, I guess I should.
I'll just do it.
Yeah, because if I'm talking about capitalism, I should probably make a commentary on religion because they're there.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's sort of half-baked. He took it out of the oven before it was ready. So,
Yes. But I still love the episode, though.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fine as well. I think it's fine to still love it because, I mean, like I said, in terms of the way that he handles tension, the dialogue is very witty and bob on. There's a lot to love about it. It's just, I just think that some of that world building, some of that commentary could have done with a bit of tightening up. But it's totally fine to kind of still say, well, I just enjoy it. And that's valid.
And a lot of people probably won't even think twice about the commentary that we've just spent 5 minutes talking about, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, normal, boring people who aren't obsessed with Doctor Who like we are.
But they'll just enjoy it for what it is. And
exactly.
There you go. Get on with their lives.
Exactly.
Quite rightly.
Exactly.
I do think that the part of the reason why, because people really were overall were very much, drawn to this episode once it had come out, right?
Yeah, I think after the last two as well, a lot of people
pretty overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, like with me, who wasn't exactly the happiest after the first two, they thought, oh my god, this is Doctor Who again. Yeah,
but I think that's because of the severe contrast in tone and pace as well.
Yeah, there was something Russell said before the series came out, and I might have mentioned this in episode 1, but he said he wants this new series to be fun, and he doesn't want it to be boring and like depressing and sad and hard sci-fi and horrible futures and pushing narratives and like a lot of TV is nowadays. Like you get crime dramas and sci-fi and whatever. But this episode was that. Really, and it's my favourite one so far. Yeah. So I think maybe Russell might be wrong. I don't know, but maybe Russell focusing on the happy or the funness is the wrong direction, possibly.
But if nothing else, it really sets Doctor Who's stall out and goes. I mean, if you think you knew what you were getting with that episode, you have no idea because next week will be totally different. And even 73 yards compared to Boom tonally is incredibly different. It's so different. That's what I love about Doctor Who in general. You go from a farting spaceship one week to the Doctor threatening to blow up.
You go from a stinker to a banger.
Literally, that needs to go on the post. That's fantastic. And we really slowed down here as well. I love the change in pace because from the pre-titles almost suggest that it's going to be that sort of rapid pace that Space Babies and Devil's Cord had. But as soon as he's on that landmine, it's like, well, we can't. The Doctor can't run. The Doctor can't move. It's got to be.
They've taken away that one thing.
Yes, as Moffat said. It's got to be real time, slow, and really let it sit with you. And I appreciated that a lot. I appreciated the that slower pace because something like Space Babies really was too quick for me. I felt like it was just very, very fast, needlessly. To make something fun doesn't automatically mean like, well, we've got to make it sure it's quick. We can't have things slow down.
Attention span, TikTok attention span.
But I don't know if people might have found Boom quite boring because of that.
Possibly.
Who knows?
I haven't seen anyone online talk about it, but I guess if you don't like it, you don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So that's probably that sort of
mentality.
Yeah. Although if Doctor Who fans don't like something, they make it very well known that they don't like something.
Yeah, true.
And I've not really seen much for that. So who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I want to make a point, and it's more of a question really. Do TV writers of the current era, in general, not just Doctor Who, do they have some sort of thing that says AI needs to be the bad guy in every story you write from now on? Because a lot of TV, AI is the bad guy.
Well, yeah. But in this case, I mean,
recent stuff, specifically. So obviously ChatGPT came out, was it last year?
Right.
Maybe the year before. And since then, every single sci-fi show, the bad guy is AI of some form. They did it in Star Trek Lower Decks. They did it in, as a lot of Star Trek, as I've mentioned in every episode so far. I like Star Trek. Yeah. They did it in Star Trek Lower Decks.
That's our theme. That's our running bad wolf of the series.
They did it in Star Trek Prodigy. They did it in Star Trek Picard. They've done it in. I mean, that's all the sci-fi I watch. But
debatably, Russell did it in Wild Blue Yonder. I like the idea that the no things are essentially a commentary on AI. It's like, here's a slightly imperfect thing that's just trying to copy.
Yeah, when these were written, which was, we're pushing 2021 when these were written, at least Wild Blue Yonder was, because this wasn't made until early 2023. Yeah. So this was probably written in 2022. Was ChatGPT a thing? Was all this AI a thing? I don't think it was.
I'm not down with the kids. I've never ChatGPT'd.
No, I know that it wasn't a thing when I handed in my dissertation at uni, which was in mid 2022. Because I remember then a couple of months later, the next lot of students, everything was, I've written this on ChatGPT, and I thought, damn, I could have done that. But so it wasn't a thing in mid 2022.
But the thing about this is that the dad AI thing seems to
he does save the day at the end.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like that was good AI for intents and purposes. But then the villain guard, yeah. So speaking of the ambulance,
played by this woman who I've seen somewhere before,
Susan Twist.
Oh yeah,
she's back again.
Yeah.
The ambulances, I loved that concept. I thought that was fantastic. And it was more back to the Moffat's days of like villains with buzzwords, sharp scratch.
Big time, yeah.
Thoughts and Prayers.
Thoughts and Prayers was a brilliant, that's a great commentary.
Yeah.
Oh, we're talking about his commentary today.
And I tell you what as well, Combat Detected, I thought that was very underrated. I think I've not seen enough people talk about Combat Detected. That's a great bit. That? When she's like saying Combat Detected.
She just goes, Combat Detected.
Yeah, and she's just approaching, and it's like... And she keeps saying that
and she's
little
doing
phrase.
More damage than the combat actually did.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a great subversion. I loved that. So if that was kind of bad AI, then they did it very well. But I don't know if AI was meant to be the AI. I think the dad was meant to be the AI, and it was like
Space Jam 2. Sorry, that was a algorithm gone wrong as well. I haven't watched it, but I know that the bad guy was Algae Rhythm. Played by Don Cheadle. But yeah, just the point I'm making is it's always algorithms and AI.
Yeah.
Just get a new idea, guys.
Yeah. Who knows?
Maybe they have a pamphlet. Maybe it's all a conspiracy.
Do you think Dot and Bubble might be talking
about
Dot and
Bubble's definitely going to be algorithm, isn't it?
At least social media related.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to think, I wonder that AI might have an influence on it.
If AI comes up in that, then I'm going to be throwing hands.
Really?
No, I'm not. It's not. I'm
not going to come into the studio. Good job we got a week between that and the
I'll
podcast.
calm down by the time the podcast comes
relax.
out. What I want to say while we're talking about the ambulance, I'm going to put something to rest. The ambulance says Ruby's age is 3,000 and something years old.
And people were like, no one noticed this? Oh my God,
people are saying, oh my God, she's an alien. She's thousands of years old. The doctor doesn't know what's going on and she's not human. Yes, shut up. It's her calendar age.
We got it when Amy was told that in Beast Below, right? It's the same thing.
It's the same thing as Amy being 3,000, was it 1,000 years old in the Beast Below?
And she's like, shut up.
It's literally... that's not a thing.
Are you glad to get that off your chest now?
I
can feel a weight. You waited a week to say this.
So many people online have been saying, oh my God, she's this alien who's thousands of years old and she's the bad guy and she's the trickster and she's whatever.
She's Maria Jackson, I think.
She's just bloody normal and it's a calendar age.
But the one interesting thing was the whole next of kin thing.
Yeah, so then there's people online saying that she's her own next of kin or something.
It says next of kin. Next of kin. And it's like a loop.
I think that could be that. I don't know.
I think it'd be quite clever if it is.
I think it's more likely that she's so old, she's not in the database, it doesn't know who her next of kin is. That could be all it is.
Yeah.
Or she was taken out of the timeline in 2024. Therefore, she doesn't have any next of kin.
Because there's a bit
which is sometimes how Doctor Who works.
Similar to, again, another Moffat episode, Beast Below, where like we were just talking about with Amy, the computer says her age, 1,000 years old, and then it says marital status.
Unknown.
And then it goes unknown. So obviously,
although that was a plot thread to do with.
We
don't know whether she's going to get married or not. Is the doctor
same thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know,
it could be similar, or I genuinely think that was just we don't know who her next of kin is because she's 3,000 years old.
Reinforced that we still don't know.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think it's I don't think it's plot related. I could be wrong. I will eat my hat. I won't eat my hat.
Yeah.
But I genuinely don't think that's got anything to do with the plot. I just think that was just a line.
Because it was mentioned, it's constantly brought up, this whole, her birth mother.
It is.
Subplot,
that's definitely going to be related. Her birth mother, but her own progeny, for lack of a better word, I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows?
Are we rounding up thoughts on Boom?
I'm just going to double check my notes. Here's the thing. So Ruby obviously can make things snow. She can make it snow. That's her thing. The Doctor and Ruby don't seem to care about it, though. They just sort of accept, it's snowing now. It's because of you, Ruby.
Yeah.
And then they just carry on.
Well, I mean, in Boom, kind of, yeah.
In Boom, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And they bring it up in Space Babies. They say, it's snowing, and it's all because of you, Ruby. Oh, what's going on?
They're kind of not making any effort to be like, should we investigate this?
Does it snow again in Devil's Cord?
It does, in the bit when she's tied up.
And they go, it's snowing. And then they carry on. And then in Boom, sure, she's just been shot, so maybe they have a bit distracted.
So the Doctor's not like,
let's
try and work this out.
And the Doctor says, there's always hope if it's snowing, and then it pauses. Very, very Twice Upon a Time of you.
Very Twice Upon. I thought that as well. Yeah.
Which possibly they only did that because they thought, it's a bit like Twice Upon a Time.
I thought the snowflake at the end was very kind of Twice Upon a Time or Husbands of a River Song kind of fairy tale ending.
Yeah, and it's just the fact that they don't seem. Obviously, the Doctor probably does care, and he's trying to not make a big deal of it because he doesn't want to worry Ruby. Yeah. But Ruby just is like, cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't. She's never said anything about the snow.
In 73 yards, she's there in bed. I used to make it snow,
She mentions it in 73 yards. It's snow. I've got a theory about 73 yards and snow. It's nothing plot related. I just think it's just a sort of. I'll get to it.
A thematic thing, or
no, not at all.
Oh, okay.
Just like a gaff, really. But they just don't care about the snow.
Yeah.
I just find it really weird. Every time they mention it, it goes, it's snowing. Oh, Ruby, that's it. And then they just don't mention it again. And I'm sure it'll get resolved at some point. The Doctor brings up family again.
Yes, he does.
Dad to dad.
Dad to dad.
Ashes to ashes. Dust to dust. Which obviously that's going to be a thing then. It's got to be. They keep mentioning it.
Family is a big thing.
Yeah. I think the only time they mentioned the Doctor's family in the original Russell era was in Last of the Time Lords.
I'm racking through my file of facts.
When he's telling them about Gallifrey when they're having chips. And then Martha says, you were a dad? Oh, I was a dad once. Or something. I think that was that episode.
Fear Her.
Was it Fear Her?
Yeah, that's why you don't remember what episode it is, because it was that.
Cool. I had this vision of him telling about Gallifrey and mentioning his children, but no, maybe I'm wrong.
I think she says something
about... He does do it in Fear Her as well.
I thought you were going to say you had a secret brother or something, and he goes, you've been watching too much TV. Because it's like... Ooh.
That David Tennant thing.
Do you know there was a line in... Sorry to just sidetrack.
No, but completely fine.
In an episode called Planet of Fire, Peter Davison episode in the 80s, the Master is being disintegrated in a big fire pit
by fire.
Thing. Yeah, it's funny that an episode called Planet of Fire, there's a lot of fire in it. He's being burnt, and the Doctor's there just standing watching, as the Doctor did in the 80s. Davison was very similar to the 13th Doctor in the sense he was very passive.
Watched people die, didn't do anything about it.
Well, as long as it's not me. And as he watched the Master being burnt, the Master said, "How could you do this to your own..." There's a very deliberate line there to be like, what was he going to say?
Your own ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much
realistically what he was going to say. What was I else? I'm just going to sort of go through my notes because I know you want to move on to the next one.
I am. I'm eager to talk about 73 yards.
Miles, I can see he's got a timer, and we're reaching half an hour now.
Very professional.
What else have I got? The bit when the Doctor's face lights up blue. Looked brilliant in HDR.
Great.
You watched it in HDR as well, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I didn't realize. I was at home for Boom and turned out my TV's UHD. So cool.
It's also. It looked all right in SDR because I then watched it at home on my computer and it looked fine. But then when Mundy arrives and shines a torch, he stops glowing blue, and then he never glows blue again. And it got me thinking, why did he glow blue in the first place?
I think it was
to show that the bomb was about to go off. But why didn't it carry on? That's my question. I get when the light goes on, maybe it's because he's being lit properly and it's not coming from inside it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But why didn't it come back? That was my question. He doesn't mention regeneration. I assume that means because it won't work if he explodes, because he's exploding.
True.
Kanto's death, didn't see it coming.
Didn't see
Genuinely
that coming.
shocked by that.
A lot of it was very much like, oh, I genuinely didn't see this.
And I've written down that that I love it. That it's tragic. I love it.
It's very Moffat, isn't it?
It's very Moffat.
Yeah.
There's a tiny, tiny little musical sting when Ruby is revived of Amy's theme.
You what?
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't notice it
you were
the
going to
first
say
time
that.
round. No, I didn't notice it the first time.
Right.
And then I couldn't tell you how Amy's theme goes. I don't remember it. Yes. Yes. What is it? Oh, hang on. Maybe it was Mad Man in the Box.
There was certainly a bit when the Doctor was doing his boom cha cha as he was dancing around. It was the same cue as the Doctor in the Star Beast when he's running around the TARDIS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Which I kind of love.
What I was thinking, it just came back to me was.
That's Mad Man in a Box.
That's Mad Man in a Box. That's the theme. It goes and then it carries on to something else. So maybe it wasn't Mad Man in a Box, but it was just the same thing.
For that next time.
And then I just have a question for you because you're a classic Who man, and I don't know the answer to this question.
Yeah.
The Doctor says, "An old man told me, what survives of us is love." Who's the old man?
Philip Pullman, the novelist.
Right. Okay.
I think it's a line from his Dark Materials or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Moffat mentions it in the commentary.
Does he?
I think it's Philip Pullman. I hope I'm not getting that wrong.
Also made by Bad Wolf.
Unless it's one of his other books. I think he wrote more than just his Dark Materials. But yeah. So yeah,
he said that. I think does he say it twice in the episode, or he says it? He says it at the
he
end.
mentions about the president's wife and the moon. Which is another Moffat callback.
The moon is an egg?
No, there's the line. Do you know the line?
The moon is an egg.
Apart from the moon is
the moon is an egg.
Yeah. Oh God, don't go into. We've not talking about kill the moon. For God's sake.
We will do that one day. Don't worry, guys.
We will not.
The moon is an egg.
The reference to Magician's Apprentice, I think it was when Missy says about he ran off with he stole the moon and the president's wife. Was it Hellbent or something? I don't know.
Yeah. But the song that the Doctor sings at the start was a song that he played on the recorder as the second Doctor, and I think Missy sings it at some point as well. I think I saw a TikTok edit of it. I'm on the TikToks.
Could be.
I run the Knowing Who TikTok, which more of you need to follow, guys.
You need to do more videos.
I've done 3 TikToks for 2 episodes.
Did you do a third one?
I've done a third one, and that was the best performing of the 3. That
really?
one got 850 views.
I'll have to go on.
I think we've only got like 10 followers, so we have more than that on Twitter. So everyone who follows us on Twitter, follow us on TikTok as well.
I neither know how to talk nor tick. So I'll leave that to you.
We'll also get Miles to get TikTok. Maybe we'll do. I was thinking this earlier. Maybe we should do a TikTok live when we're in the queue to watch the cinema.
Interesting.
That could be fun.
I also have no idea. I'm like David Tennant when it comes to that sort of tech. Surprisingly, I work in tech and I've got no idea about TikTok and stuff. So
you don't work in social media. You just
I don't work in social media. That's my excuse. Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's the gist of everything I have down. All the notes I've got.
Just a quick way to sort of tail off this that I'm talking about Boom.
Yeah.
I'm going to be bringing in this little thing if I remember to do it.
Yeah.
Every time. By sort of trying this segment going, if you liked Boom, then try this. And I'm going to be trying to think of an episode. If you've only just started watching Doctor Who here, dear listeners, or you've only just you've only done the new series stuff and maybe you've not watched it in a while, this will hopefully give you a bit more of a taste of that sort of stuff. So for this, the kind of 2 obvious ones, but if you enjoyed Boom, I think you'd really love Oxygen.
I'm still blind.
Was that written by just Jamie Matheson, or did Moffat write that as well? I don't know. It might have been. I think it's just Jamie Matheson.
I don't think we got a double-barreled penned episode in the Moffat era.
We did.
We got one. Did we?
Yeah,
Planet
Girl
of the
Who
Dead
Died
was.
and The Caretaker.
Fair enough.
Said about that.
I'm completely wrong.
Yeah. But anyway, Oxygen, capitalism, algorithms, you're going to love it. And also, it's got great similar companion shock moments.
Yes.
The Doctor, something very harrowing
spoiled
happens
it
to him.
Multiple times in this episode already.
So yeah, give Oxygen a go, or maybe you've just not seen it in a while. You know, that's more kind of this really, and also the episode that basically influenced this, Genesis of the Daleks. Part 1 is very much
Harriet
that first 5 minutes almost is pretty much boom. So give those a go. Those are my recommendations. What are people saying though, Ben?
What are people saying?
I don't want to know what we're saying. I want to know what other people are saying.
So we forgot to do this last episode.
We did.
But on the Twitter, we've asked you guys what you thought of this episode. So I'll quickly go through them because I know we're running out of time and because we don't have much to go through. So Lachlan Firth has said, what a stellar episode. Only at small moments did I find the special effects wonky, mostly due to the entry-exit from the TARDIS. The Doctor's just starting to expect the snow around Ruby, and his confusion at the frozen snow took me right back to Twice Upon a Time. Which we've already mentioned, really. But the special effects, we've completely forgotten to mention.
The whole volume.
They had a volume,
thing,
although that might be a brand name. So they had an LED screen, as they say in Unleashed.
Yeah, right down to the TARDIS interior itself.
Yeah, which I thought was I didn't notice that. I mean,
very clever.
So what Lachlan's getting at, I assume, is the fact that the TARDIS was on that LED screen and it wasn't a green screen like we normally have. So for people who don't know what we're talking about, this LED screen sort of changes the perspective to follow where the camera is. So you don't just have a static image as a background. You've got a 3D space, like a Time Lord painting. Very much like a Time Lord painting. And if the camera moves, then the background moves to match the camera shot. And it's really good. It's really well done in this episode. I was watching it and I thought, God, it almost looks like they've used the volume. And they had.
Oh, did you not know that they were using this tech?
So was that announced beforehand?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was mentioned either in Doctor Who magazine or something like that. I was aware that they were doing it.
I hadn't noticed it, and I didn't have much of a problem with the inside of the TARDIS, which
I didn't
multiple people
all.
have mentioned it online.
Wow.
I didn't twig it, but I did think watching it, and I thought, oh, it looks a bit different, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And thinking about it, it was because it was down to
interesting.
This,
I honestly,
I assume.
Until I watched the commentary and Russell said that, I had no idea. So
yeah, fair enough.
It obviously worked well for me.
And then also we've got Sue W. Sue W says that she loved Boom. Should have been the season opening episode. That would have drawn in new viewers.
Interesting. I did think that it maybe not the season opener, but if you put this as episode 2 instead of Devil's Cord,
yeah,
I think
it would have done.
It might have split things up a bit nicer. Yeah. But I understand why they wanted to have Devil's Cord be there because it's such a big statement of here we are.
Yeah, and
go big or go home.
I think people online have said the plan was Devil's Cord would originally be episode 6 or so.
That's possible because it was filmed in one of the later blocks. Yeah, and I think on set there was a lot of like, is it episode 2 or is it episode 6? Right. It was very much kind of like,
I think if it did end up being episode 6, a lot of people would have gone, well, this is a weird episode to have near the climax of the series. This is a bit strange.
The One Who Waits is almost there, you know.
They do all that world building,
time jump
which
thing
they haven't touched since. In these 2 episodes, they haven't mentioned anything plot related, really, like overarching plot. So other than Susan Twist,
it very much seems like Boom, 73 Yards are kind of those early ones, whereas Devil's Cord, I mean, you've got the time jump that in there, like of Ruby saying,
exactly,
it was June or whatever.
So maybe Boom was meant to be episode 2,
and also it's the first alien planet that Ruby's been on.
Exactly.
What have they been doing for 6 months?
So maybe Devil's Cord was meant to be at the end of the end of the series, and they just thought, oh no, we'll bring it forward. Yeah, and they just sort of slotted it in between episodes 2 and 3,
and didn't really think about the consequences of that. Yeah, so they kind of bungled that a bit, but.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Let's move on
to
this is going to be a long
recent extravaganza. People will love it.
I like a long podcast. I hope you guys do.
73 yards.
66.7 meters.
Is it?
Well, they say it in the episode.
Oh, good. I totally forgot what it was.
Something about feet as well. I don't remember that number. 211, maybe?
Well, there we go.
I don't know.
This is what you guys come here for, the hard, cold facts.
Again, they mention this all in the episode.
Yeah.
Kate Lethbridge-Stewart says it.
She does indeed.
Spoilers.
We'll talk about her in a bit. I just want to ask you off the bat before we get into the nitty-gritty.
Because we haven't said a word to each other about this.
Not a word. Nothing
Unlike
at all.
with Boom, where we had a week to almost avoid the subject, we have not said a word about this episode yet.
I'll also say
I've only watched it this morning.
You've only watched it this morning. I, on the other hand,
Yes.
Watched it at midnight for the first time.
Look at that. Not the last.
Not the well.
We'll
Yeah, no, it won't be the last. Yeah, literally won't be the last. I don't think I'll be doing it again for like Dot and Bubble Rogue.
No, I don't see a need.
But I just happened to. I came back from the pub. It was 11:30, and I was like, "Well, there we go."
Bit wavy.
It was meant to. It was meant to be. Chucked a pizza on 73 yards. There we go.
I was in bed. I was asleep.
Yeah, you were being sensible.
Yeah.
But
I was on the early shift. God,
were
I
you
was
really
tired.
Awful. But I think it was a good one to do that for because of the sort of creepy vibe. I have watched it again though since.
I've sort of half watched it.
Yeah, but yeah, tell me, Ben.
What did I think?
What did you think? Just overall.
I really enjoyed it.
Right.
I think it was a good story. There was a bit jumping into sort of near the end of the story.
Yeah, I feel like you've got to kind of talk about the end in order to talk about it overall.
So okay, we have actually talked about this already today. Sorry, guys. Sorry, viewers, listeners. There's a bit after the stadium. You know, they're in the stadium, and that feels like it should be the end, and it clearly isn't. But also, as we got to that point, I was watching it, and I thought, "Oh, are we at the end now?" And I thought, "Oh, okay, we've sort of got to this point." And this is clearly almost the end, even though I know it doesn't end there, but it doesn't carry on much longer. And she saves the day, sort of, almost. And I don't know, it just doesn't feel like an ending. And obviously, I know it isn't the ending. And I think
it's almost because it's not been set up.
But it's sort of, not really at all.
The lack of setup.
The whole Roger Ap Gwilliam bit, like, he just sort of appears 2/3 of the way through the story, or halfway through the story, and then he disappears almost as quickly as he turns up. Like, you get him for a bit, and because they built him up when they were shooting this, because this was the first episode they shot.
Yeah.
And I remember, being on Twitter, watching pictures come through of them shooting, and they announced that he was going to be, I can't remember, Anwin Bernard.
Bernard, yes.
So they announced that he was going to be this character, and he seemed like he was going to be a big character. And then he's only in it for a couple minutes. And
same as Sian Phillips, who, do you know Sian Phillips? She was the old lady in the pub in this episode.
Oh, her, yes, yeah.
Fantastic actor, I Claudius. Just
yes,
amazing credits. Yeah. And it was like finally she's in Doctor Who, and she was only in that scene. And she was very good in it.
She was great,
amazing, just as Anorin, or whatever you say, Roger Aquilian. Just as he was fantastic with what he did as well.
Yeah, no, I had no problem with him. I just thought he wasn't in it very long. Yeah. After they built him up for 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Which I found. Did we even see him on set? I don't know if we did.
We saw posters with his face on.
Oh,
on
that's
set.
what we saw. Yeah.
So everyone worked out, and then obviously they announced it. So.
And I think it might have even just been better to not announce him. Obviously, we've seen pictures of him, but if we didn't...
But not to big it up.
Because it felt like they were bigging him up, and all he was just there for a couple of minutes,
Unless
and
he's coming back.
He runs off. He could, in 20 years' time, in 2046.
True. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I didn't think of that, yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll meet him as a child.
Yeah, you know.
Who knows? Maybe he's the Harbinger child.
Maybe he is.
Oh, my God.
Maybe.
I don't think he is. I also thought a lot of people were talking about this before the episode, that he was going to be the Minister of War, because that was something that Moffat created in After the Flood. And it was meant to be like, because they mentioned the Saxon Master.
It's actually Before the Flood.
Sorry, Before the Flood.
What was it called? Under the Lake and Before the Flood.
Sorry, After the Flood was
just correcting that.
After the Flood was an ITV drama.
Yes, less said about that, the better. Carry on.
Before the Flood, they mentioned the Minister of War being a thing, and everyone at the time sort of thought, "Oh, this is going to be the series arc," and it wasn't. That was the Hybrid, I think, that series. And I thought they might bring that in after a lot of people mentioned it online. The biggest problem I had with this, and it was nothing to do with the story, was I'm not a fan of all of the reviews coming out before the episode
and bigging them up,
and everyone being excited and hyping up the stories and saying, "Oh my God, this person's going to be in it, and that person's going to be in it, and it's got 5 stars from the Radio Times." And I just want to watch the episode and make that decision myself. There was even and I apologize if you're listening, but I saw a TikTok literally minutes after, or maybe a couple hours after we saw the Next Time trailer, for this episode, for 73 Yards, at the end of Boom. And someone was saying, oh, Amy Pond's going to be in that pub in Wales because it sounds like Amy's saying, oh, what, blah, 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 and it's this and that. And I made a really nasty comment saying, of course it's not Amy and it's not this because it can't be this. And Ruby isn't 3,000 years old because that's stupid and it's calendar age. And it was a hate comment, really, if I think about it too hard. But it's just, it's all of that adds together. And people think, this episode's going to be amazing. It's going to have all these people and characters that we love. And it's a mid-series episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's great or not. It's mid-series.
I'll be honest.
I don't want to have a review for it.
When the reviews come in, I don't really. I don't read them.
Oh, I don't read them.
I do. You're right though. I do see the stars.
I see the star rating, and then other people read them and they talk about it. And when you're on Doctor Who Twitter, you see all of it, even if you're not looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just it doesn't ruin it for me, but I want to come to my own conclusions.
And I think in this instance as well, Russell ages ago said, I think episode 4 is one of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah.
So to have that preconception going into this,
exactly,
which is a bit like,
I want to go in
big
blind,
shoes. Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
That.
But I think I kind of did because I was like, well, look, I'm gonna be realistic here. And I know that if I went in thinking, that it's going to be like this, I'm just not going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I just hit the mic.
You just hit the mic.
Faithful listener. So I think I did manage to get rid of that before going in.
So the reason why I bring it up is because this morning when I woke up, I obviously didn't stay up to watch it last night. Last week, I had to go into work, and I luckily was able to watch it at work. I got permission beforehand, if anyone's worried. And I was able to watch it at work, and I got in at 8, and I did my bits and pieces in the very early morning, and then I sat down and watched the episode, and then I carried on with the rest of my work. And it was early, and I hadn't wanted to look at Twitter or Reddit or anything like that. But this morning, I woke up, and it was about 11 o'clock, and normally what I do on a Saturday morning is I'll look on my phone, and I knew I couldn't because it would spoil it for me. And I was anticipating the episode, and I was excited for the episode. And obviously, I'm always going to be excited for new Doctor Who, but part of it was because of all this build-up that it had gotten during the week. So, I don't know. We've all said it before. I don't like the release strategy. I don't like having to wait until I'm ready, until I can sit down and watch it. I don't like having to not look at my phone. And it all sort of adds to this build-up of me watching it, and either I'm going to say, you know what, it was as good as everyone said it was, or it wasn't as good as everyone said it would be. But I just want to watch it and then think, that was great, that was not great.
But the reviews coming out, that's always going to happen, no matter what the release schedule is. But then what we got with
Space Babies and Devil's Cord was they got 2-3-star reviews on Radio Times or something.
People are going to be
and everyone went into them going, oh, it's going to be awful.
Yeah.
And I almost went into it thinking like that as well. And at the end of the day, I didn't really like either of them. So maybe it does influence my opinion. I don't know. I just want to go into them blind. I'm going to stop complaining now about that, though. Let's talk about the episode.
Let's talk about the episode itself. You know what? Let's start from the top, because there was no title sequence.
No.
And we kind of knew that from the off, because it came up with the word 73 yards, and I was like, hang about.
I thought, oh, no title sequence.
Yeah. I think it's probably.
I think they should have.
Thematically, it kind of works, but I reckon it was because of time. Russell was probably like.
This was only, I think, 43 minutes, though.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought. Oh, I guess they would have just cut it because they were like, oh, we'll get that extra minute of screen time.
What people have said online, and I always say what people have said online, but what people have said online was, oh, there's no title sequence. I'll pay more attention. Oh, I'm excited for this one. Oh, I'm going to sit up out of my chair and watch this properly. That's what people have said. Yeah. So maybe it was a deliberate choice.
It did draw you in.
Exactly.
Definitely. I mean, look, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I was really gripped. It definitely made me feel like I was sat there and I was just like, I want to know what's happening next. And there's always there's that part of you which is like, I just want to stay in this world because it's so weird and so horrifying almost that what's happened.
It was
to
almost
Ruby.
Very years and years.
Yeah.
Have you watched Russell's old series? That was on. It was on BBC One a couple of years ago.
Harrowing series.
Yeah, that was a bit more pessimistic than Ruby's future.
A little bit. I feel like
both nuclear based though.
Both nuclear based. I feel like they kind of didn't go as heavy-handed with the political stuff as they could have done.
I think a lot of people went into this thinking it's going to be very political. Also, what great timing for a political episode of Doctor Who.
We had the Aurora Borealis for Space Babies, we had Meteors for Boom, and here we are, we've got a political...
We're about to have a general election in the UK.
But yeah, so I'm kind of thinking through all this, and then I got to the ending, and basically I thought that it was a bit unclear, and I'm kind of trying to work out, does the fact that ultimately, to me, it doesn't make sense, does that spoil it? Should that spoil it, despite the fact that I was still gripped and I was still feeling things throughout the whole thing? That's kind of the main thing I'm grappling with, because I think I loved it. And I almost don't want to say that until I know for sure, because I feel like, usually you love something and you feel that overwhelmingly.
Like me with Boom.
Like you with Boom, which I did. I liked Boom a lot, but I have a feeling like this is one of those. It's like, I feel like this starts the start of something beautiful here. Like, I'm just the more I think about 73 yards, and I can't stop thinking about it.
I think I had a similar reaction after the episode aired. I thought, I did enjoy it, but what was actually going on? It was something like that. Yeah. And Russell said in Unleashed that we're not going to tell you. We're not going to answer any of your questions.
We're gonna go into that. So you know what? Rather than we'll sort of come into all this for our overall thoughts at the end. But I want to start with, I mean, surprisingly, the centerpiece to all this episode, Millie bloody Gibson.
She's brilliant.
There's no getting around it. She's absolutely phenomenal in this episode.
She's great.
I tweeted that I thought the only thought that I'm absolutely certain on is the fact that she was fantastic. So I did tweet this. I said, that is going to be up there with one of the great companion performances in Doctor Who. There's no question about that. It's up there with Catherine Tate in Turn Left, Freema Rajman in That's the Time Lord, all that sort of stuff. She was amazing, and you'd think this was the first filming block. There was
this was
no
the first thing
practically
that she shot.
no Shooty, because he was too busy filming Sex Education. She was carrying the production essentially, on her own. As the lead,
she
for all
was
intents
the star,
and purposes. And she was only, back then, she would have only been 18.
Yeah.
And that is incredible. There's not a single moment in this episode that I don't think she pulled off.
Not at all.
She was amazing, and if nothing else, that's one thing that I can be absolutely certain of.
Yeah. Does this make your crush on Millie Gibson even bigger?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
She's so good. Little moments throughout the whole thing. Not even little moments, just the whole thing. She's fantastic.
She was brilliant. I completely agree with you. I'm
going to stop gushing, but I just think
cool. I'll
she
stop
was
gushing.
Fantastic.
No, she was. I completely agree. She was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Absolutely, everything you said, I agree with. That's going to go down as a massive moment in Doctor Who.
One of the greats. I think in context even more so. So well bloody done. She deserves all the praise she's getting for this one. She used to make it snow,
She used to make it snow. Shall I mention my snow theory before we
go on? Yeah. What we're talking about. Millie.
So it's not it's not a season arc thing. It's not a plot thing at all. What I think is this episode was shot in December, so there was snow on the ground, actual real life snow.
You're right.
In the Welsh mountains.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that this episode is set in June, July, like the last couple have been. So that's the contemporary Earth time.
I don't want to think about time scales. It makes my head hurt. But yeah, go on.
Basically, what I think was, as they were shooting this episode, Russell said, "Oh, it's snowing. And this is meant to be summer. How about I make it so that Ruby makes it snow?" Because it starts snowing in the episode when she's a bit depressed with the woman following her. So then he would have had to have gone back and just sort of added a couple bits into the script where she makes it snow in a couple other stories, because the snow is never practical on the ground so far. Except for the Church on Ruby Road, which was a Christmas episode.
Ben, this is throwing right back to the classic era when they were filming The Claws of Axos.
Is it?
And there was a blizzard, and it was so bad that they thought, well, we're just going to have to write this into the story about freak weather conditions. So, it could be the case.
Or it's a climate change thing. And it's snowing in July, or it's set at Christmas. It's set in the winter.
Then old Ruby does make a point of like, and it hasn't snowed in years. And I'm like, is that because of you, or is that just? Well,
it's an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
So basically, I just thought, I wonder if the whole snow thing is because Russell thought, let's chuck in a throwaway line about it snowing because it's snowing on set.
I think it's because of the cold Christmas thing, and
she's the spirit of Christmas.
Yeah, I think we're going to know for sure by the end of this series and we'll get that snow thing will be really sort of pinned down.
Yeah.
But yeah, talking of Welshness, Welsh Highlands, and all that sort of stuff. I
countryside
absolutely loved the start of this. The horror, the horror was strong, you know. Because that was what's so confusing going into this episode, being like, well, we know that there's political stuff going on, but then we also know that it's very strong sort of horror vibes. So it kind of did both. Kind of horror at the start, drifting into the political sort of thriller at the end. But it absolutely nailed the horror stuff, and I think what encapsulated that in terms of the 73 yards, the woman, Russell said in Unleashed, like you were saying, I'm not going to do the voice. I'm never going to tell you what she says. What could someone say that would make a mother run away from her daughter forever? That is terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is a horrible thought. And at first I was kind of like, so we're never going to know what that woman was saying? Well, that's surely a big plot point. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, well, hang about. That is more scary, weirdly.
Although I know Russell does say that she's saying something, is what he's saying there. But I think, regardless of what she's saying, it's probably more just she's implanting this thought in your mind that Ruby is just a bad person, and that's what scares people enough to run away.
Yeah.
I don't think, and it doesn't matter for the plot of the story. I think all it is Ruby's just a bad person, and she's like the Curse of Clyde Langer.
Oh, it was Curse of Clyde Langer in all over the place. All
it is in that episode is, I just have this feeling that I don't like you. That's all it is, and I think it's the same thing.
Perhaps.
I don't think the woman is particularly saying anything. I think it's whatever just it is, instilling this hatred in you.
I think it's more than that, though, because whatever it is enough to make Roger ap Gwilliam, abdicate from being...
Abdicate.
Is that the word?
Resign.
It's enough to make him stop being Prime Minister and probably have a lot of therapy. So... it's more than just get away from her. Maybe it's something about like, do you realise how much power she has? She could make it snow.
And she could make it snow.
Ask her, she can make it snow. I just think that not knowing, the more I think about it, is kind of scarier.
I agree with you. I do agree. It was my question as well. Whilst watching it and after finishing it, what could she possibly be saying?
And instantly, that was my thought as well. It was like, I've lost my train of thought. Anyway, it's instantly that was my thought as well. So that all of that element was fantastic, and the pub scene, as we sort of touched on, Sian Phillips amazing in that little part that she had. It's a shame she didn't do more, but I'm appreciating the fact that she was just fantastic in what she did.
The thing that I thought with that whole sequence is after it finishes, like that's it. Like the people in the pub
kind of cease to exist.
Well, but they're not spooky supernatural people. They're just annoying. They're
dicks.
They're just dicks. None of it. Because all this build up about it being a Welsh folk horror, it's not. It's just a bunch of dicks in a pub.
But did you find that? What did you think of the kind of 180 that happens?
It was very funny. It was a very funny moment.
And given that they'd used so much of that pub stuff in the promo, and now we know that it's just them messing about with
just having a gag. But then afterwards, you're just thinking, oh well, I don't know. It's just sort of wasted the time.
I'll admit as well, there was a part of me that was like, oh yeah, but I would have loved an episode that was like horror based.
I agree.
Like what they're talking about sounds cracking, and the way Sian Phillips delivers all that stuff about Mad Jack, it's just like, that's creepy.
Yeah, and Mad Jack, the bit when Roger in the on the TV says, "Oh, they used to call me Mad Jack." That's just a coincidence, isn't it?
Well, this is my question.
He's not the spirit of Mad Jack.
Who do you think Mad Jack is?
I don't know. It's just some. I think maybe he is just someone's dog. Because the people in the pub, or whatever, by saying that, I mean maybe he was no one. Because the people in the pub, they recognise that Ruby's worried about this Mad Jack fella.
Yeah.
And they're deliberately going out of their way to big this up and to scare her. And they make up this story about Mad Jack used to come to this pub because he's not got a home anymore. And then it's all a joke, and they were making everything up. Yeah. So Mad Jack probably wasn't this supernatural force that they're all aware of. Mm-hmm. And then later on in the episode, there's a coincidence.
Yeah, that makes Ruby remember.
Yeah, and he just happens to say, it used to be called Mad Jack.
Because it's not just the name that she remembers. It's as soon as he says Mad Jack that she has to do these flashbacks.
Yeah, she remembers the whole bit.
Yeah.
But so I just think it's a coincidence.
I think you're right.
Hint. It's another coincidence.
Yeah, a lot of this around Ruby, isn't there?
Exactly.
I think you're right there, actually.
I don't think Mad Jack was anyone. If he was. Or if he was, he's not. I don't think he's Roger. Even if he was this supernatural thing, I don't think he's Roger.
At first I thought, what? So is he either the spirit of Mad Jack, possessed this guy, or is he Mad Jack?
No, he's just also a dick.
I just think it's you're right, it is a coincidence, but it also is, that's quite interesting because it sort of, this whole thing of projecting, there must be something more to it. It's kind of what fans do, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of, that is what fans do. They'll pick up on something and they'll be like, well, how does this work? You know, surely that must all the time. But yeah, you're right.
No, I don't think it's
probably
anything.
Is someone's dog.
Yeah.
And I like that. The more I think about that as well, the more I like that.
Yeah, it was a plot point for Ruby to pick up on and go, oh, I remember the whole pub thing.
Yeah.
That's all I think it is. Yeah,
it's just a coincidence which
to make her think, ooh, now I know what I'm for. Now I know what this whole thing is about.
Yeah.
And then it turns out not to be related to that, really, at all.
I think, I think
it carries on.
That's part of the issue I had with the ending. So... yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're heading to, really. As the sort of episode rapidly jumps through time spans, which I didn't get instantly because
she doesn't
putting
age.
a pair of glasses, making Millie's hair a bit longer and putting a pair of glasses on her. I mean, I reckon they would have done...
It does make her look a bit older.
It does.
When she's 25, 30, I see it.
Yeah, but then when
it's 40...
That's the thing. People afterwards were like, oh, she was meant to be 40 there. And I was like, she was what?
She looks like someone our age.
Yeah.
You know, we're 23, 24.
Yeah. All I can assume is that they did tests and it either didn't look right or it looked ridiculous, and Russell was like, let's just suspend our disbelief.
Yeah, possibly.
Anyway,
I mean, she does, but
by the way.
Millie does do well. So sure, she doesn't look 40, but the way she plays it, the way she's a wine mum, she's wearing sort of older people clothes. The way she's doing little
talking,
movements, and the way she's talking, and the way she talks to others and treats people.
Tell you what,
does add.
Tell you what shocked me, the way she talks about being in bed with someone.
I know.
I thought
they just sort of drop that in.
They just sort of drop it. But the thing is, the guy mentions it first. He says something about being in bed. I was like, did I hear that? I'm not going to rewind it because But then she says it. She refers to it.
It was all your
properly.
Problem. It was all
I was like, wow. This is very mature stuff for Doctor. I mean, poor bloody Marty Bridges.
So I was going to get into that. When on my first watch, I just thought, what the hell's going on here? And then on the second watch, you sort of realise, oh,
it's
God,
really horrible.
What did he do to her?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Obviously, there's no confirmation of what happened, but you can assume.
Again, another thing of it's more horrible not knowing.
Because in my first watch, I was thinking, well, why does she care? What's going on? Why was she invited to the party? And then you think about it and you think, oh God, he's got a thing for her, and he's probably done something. He's
a grooming
situation
or something like that. The thing that really freaks me out is that awful line where she says, "Oh, that's Marty," and he says, like a boy's name, and it's like, oh God, that is awful, horrible.
He's just a horrible person. And she calls him a monster.
Yeah.
So he's clearly done something to make her think that.
Russell is amazing at uncomfortable stuff like that.
And this is what I was getting at when I said it was very Years and Years. So I don't think in Years and Years there's a moment like that, but there are people and characters who are monsters, who are horrible people.
It's a sin as well. I mean, the stuff, there's certain characters in that which are exactly like that, and awful stuff, incredibly uncomfortable, and again, like I was saying, very mature storytelling. We've gone from babies in a farting spaceship to this.
So, and
I'm not saying that as like, God, this is awful. I'm saying like, I mean, what a contrast.
It's like what I was talking earlier about Russell saying that this is going to be a fun series.
Yeah.
And then these 2 episodes we're talking about today are
grim.
not fun.
It's grim.
They're not happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
They are sad and dark and scary.
Yeah.
And there are 2 favourite episodes of the series.
I think
so. Maybe
agree,
when Russell was saying, "Oh, I just want to do something fun,"
he was being mischievous.
He was just completely wrong, or just lying.
He was being Mad
something.
Jack, I think.
He was Mad Jack.
Yeah, and Russell was Mad Jack.
We'll find out. I mean, next week we've got Dot and Bubble, which probably won't be as dark as these 2 episodes have been.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll find out. I saw someone online say Dot and Bubble's going to be the Love and Monsters of this series.
Who knows? Who knows? So yeah, I mean, talking about that political stuff, obviously you touched on Years and Years, which I did see as an influence. I do wish, my only sort of wish is that they did push that a bit more and went a bit more extreme, because I think Turn Left was definitely did
Fire
that.
and Nuke. I think they should have gone the full hog.
Maybe, but I understand why they didn't do that. But I thought there was elements of it that they could have ramped up a bit more. And you're right, maybe take away some of old Ruby and use some of that storyline to build
have some
up that.
more time with Roger.
Yeah.
Get to that stage where he's about to press the button, or he has pressed the button, and that's when things change. Or he's about to press the button and then he runs away, is terrified of the lady. Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
I think that, because we've seen how well Russell does that in Years and Years and Turn Left and all that sort of stuff. And I love it when he do Second Coming as well, like the apocalyptic.
I can't find that anywhere. I
want
to watch it and I can't find it online.
It's so good. Yeah. It's been 8 years since I've watched it, but that is another one of those things. It's like the world has just gone to hell. Yeah. And I think Russell does that so well. It's almost a shame that he didn't either have the room to do it, or...
This is a family show at the end of the day.
Yeah, maybe there's a limit. Maybe there's a line to be drawn.
I'm sure you watched it at midnight, but it is a pre-Watershed programme at the end of the day.
At the end of the day. But they did push it quite far. So, yeah, I mean, I've kind of touched on a lot of my notes already, to be honest. Is there anything we've kind of forgotten? Because I've got a lot of
big thing.
Okay, and then we're going to round off, because I do want to sort of sum everything up. But yeah, go on.
I'm going to hit you with a quote from the episode.
Hit me.
Have I met you before?
Oh, here she is again.
Oh no, that was something else. That's what she says. I think about
somewhere else, or
yeah. So they acknowledge Susan Twist sort of for the first time in episode, and last week we got our first acknowledgement on social media of the Susan Twist thing.
Yeah, in the podcast.
The podcast, yeah.
And also in the commentary, Russell said.
And Russell says, "Oh, it's just the only actress that was available. I mean, we've just exhausted everyone."
That quote has been taken out of context, because if you watch the full commentary, he does go on to say, "Of course, I'm joking."
Yeah,
and I'm But everyone was like, "What are they talking about? This is stupid."
I didn't know the full context, but also I just thought, well, it's clearly a joke.
That it's
clearly a joke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, we've gotten 3 times now acknowledgements of Susan Twist.
And do you know what? In this moment as well, I didn't realise it was her until she said that. I know you?
I originally thought that Susan was the woman. I thought that was her cameo for the episode.
I thought that was but it's just there was just a lot of old women in this episode.
And we get Mrs. Flood back.
We do get Mrs.
women
very briefly.
Yes, and there's a bit in Unleashed where he's talking where
Stefan
Powell is talking to Anita Dobson, and I'm pretty sure it's cut from the same interview as in the Church on Ruby Road's Unleashed. So that's interesting, at least.
They may well have done her stuff with pickups, or
possibly,
who knows. Yeah.
Actually, no, I think they did. Sorry, this has just popped into my head, because when we saw them filming Church on Ruby Road, they decorated the whole street with Christmas lights, and then I remember a couple months later
they came back
and put the Christmas lights back up. So it must have been pickups.
They did a few pickups for there. And obviously all her stuff was outside. We've not seen her anywhere else except for outside her house. So that was a weird moment. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that she would be in this, and then she wasn't in it again
at all. But
yeah.
What else have I got? I've just double check, see if I've got anything else. Pub people are horrible. The aging is weird. Ruby's really channeling her inner Clara.
She's very
especially
Clara.
In that chat where she's talking about being in bed.
Yeah.
She's very Clara. I'm going to go save the world.
Yeah.
Very Clara. Something. This is a little fun tidbit. I don't know if you know this, but when they were filming that episode, after everything wrapped, someone broke into the Albion set.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, so I remember seeing this in 2022 or early 2023 on Twitter, on DWSR.
And they nicked a load of...
And, well, I don't know if they nicked anything, but they took a video of the inside of Albion HQ.
Wow.
So it wasn't until my second watch that I remembered that.
Wow.
And there was that shot following Ruby in where she walks up to the desk and offers her services.
Yeah.
And...
it's a very mature episode.
And...
this is a whole other level of
sorry,
Doctor
Mum,
Who.
if you're listening.
This is Torchwood right
this
here.
is Torchwood, and she walks. And that shot where it follows her, she walks around the corner and talks to the man at the desk, is essentially the same shot that whoever broke into the set, I'm pretty sure, took a video of him walking down that bit of the corridor. And I saw it and I thought, I've seen this before. Oh yeah, it was that.
Haven't I seen you somewhere before?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And something else just popped into my head. I saw on Twitter, I didn't notice this, but the woman, the landlady, not the real life landlady, but the landlady in the episode.
She's from Torchwood.
Was in Countryside. It's the Torchwood Countryside episode, that's cool. Another Welsh folk horror countryside story.
Yeah, a staunch Welsh person who doesn't want people to come in their area. Oh dear me. This is honestly the levels of
that's the clip for this week.
Oh dear. Right, okay, very swiftly I'm gonna to move on from that, I'm just gonna wrap things up.
What's your recommendation, Miles? Is that what you're gonna get to?
Yeah. I mean, if you like 73 yards, you can try some very suspect websites, maybe. Curse of Clyde Langer, we've touched on that. The Sarah Jane Adventures episode, which is, I mean, it's probably one of the best episodes of the Sarah Jane Adventures. It's won awards. It was very well received, and Russell has praised it many a time. Stop laughing. Sorry. Also, of course, Turn Left as well. You've got another stellar performance from a companion, Catherine Tate, world-ending, The Doctor's gone. If you like 73 yards, you're going to love that shizzle.
And if what the online rumours are saying is true, and the baddie's going to be the trickster...
Yeah,
that is Curse of Clyde Langer a trickster episode?
It's not. No, but I would love that.
Yeah.
So much. I don't think it will happen, but I would love it.
But sorry, I'll get to that maybe later. But in Turn Left, of course, you've got the Trickster Brigade.
Trickster Brigade, the Beetle.
That's what the Beetle is a part of. It's part of the Trickster's Brigade.
But it's the same thing of like Ruby's got this woman who's constantly there. Donna's got something on her back the whole time. Yeah. I'm not saying that Russell's deliberately copied that. It's just the similarities are there, and if you liked what we saw,
an episode where the Doctor is gone essentially, and he's disappeared.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very similar thing. But this Turn Left is a very different type of story, because this is very much more supernatural. I mean, Kate Lethbridge-Stewart literally says, things are more supernatural, and supernatural. What are you talking about?
Your voice cracked. Sorry.
I'll do it again. I'm going to need to have a swig of water. Tell us what people thought, Ben, while I have a drink.
While you're drinking. While you have a drink. So, what we've got, Lua says, worst episode since Series 8 for me. Absolutely hate how nothing is ever explained, nor ever will, and the way the episode loops over itself to erase any sort of character progression, lore, or even rewatching interest. An utter shame in an 8-episode season. So
interesting.
A very negative.
Well, that's the total opposite end of the spectrum, really. And I'll be honest, I didn't think of it in that way, as if everything's been erased.
No, so there's a bit at the end where Ruby says, "I've been to Wales 3 times," and at the start of the episode, she says, "I've been to Wales twice."
Yes, yeah.
So there's something in her. Whether she remembers it in full or what, she has some sort of memory of
recollection
of something. She knows something.
Yeah.
And maybe at the end of the series, she will fully remember that this happened or something. I don't know.
I feel like,
or one day maybe next series or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely remember feeling like that. About the whole.
I had similar thoughts. Yeah, with nothing ever being answered. And...
Not really. I mean, in this instance, yes, I did. I was like, I have questions, and I don't quite understand what just went on. But in terms of the whole things being erased, I remember back in Series 10, the episode Extremis.
Yes.
That was the whole simulation thing, and the episode ended with it, and it was kind of the idea of like, well, that wasn't the real Doctor. That was all in a simulation, and the only thing it's taught us is that the monks are coming, or whatever it was. Yeah. And at the time, I was like, well, and it was a pointless episode. Why did I watch that? But now I look back and I'm like, well, just it's just it's a really good piece of telly, actually, and it's the best of those three, realistically.
And talking about rewatch value, I mean, we've both rewatched it, haven't we? And we both enjoyed it on the rewatch.
And I'll be honest, on the rewatch, I was more at ease again. It's kind of what happens with a lot of these episodes, really.
Yeah.
I just, you know what? I really liked it. I just really liked it, and it's new, it's gripping, it's mature, like we were saying, not in that way. You
think it might be.
It has one of the show's best performances in its history.
Yeah.
So my thought is, should a kind of muddled ending take away, or maybe even add to that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I had this feeling after I finished this episode, or maybe it was partway through, I suddenly had this feeling of, I'm actually really enjoying Doctor Who again. And it makes me think of when I was in year 5. Yeah. And I was playing on the playground, and there was this girl I was playing with who was pretending to be a vampire, and I thought, it's just like Vampires of Venice.
Yeah.
I have that vivid memory of me being the Doctor on the playground fighting a vampire.
Yeah.
And being excited about new Doctor, because that was before Vampires of Venice even came out. It was. I remember saying,
you knew
I'm not going to see vampires till next week.
Yeah.
I said that on the playground.
Yeah.
And I had this excitement for new Doctor Who, and I haven't felt that way in years. I don't think that was the last time I felt that way.
Yeah.
As I enjoyed series 6 and 7 and bits of 8, and then I sort of fell off. But I've got that feeling again, which is really nice to have.
Yeah. Because I think 73 yards encapsulates that, because it's really,
despite having a problem with it, I'm still happy.
You're still thinking about it as well, though.
Yeah,
I feel like it's one of those ones that is constantly on your mind.
Yeah,
and Russell's very good at that sort of stuff, because Years and Years was like that. You know, It's a Sin was like that. This is his kind of jam. Just like Moffat had his kind of jam in Boom.
Even as a kid on the playground with this episode, you could be 73 yards away.
Yeah, there could be kids learning the movements that the woman's doing, you know?
Yeah. Thank you. How could I ever give this up? This is so great. I don't know what to give back to you, or whatever she's saying.
Yeah.
That's what the woman's saying, by the way. If you've watched Unleashed, something like that. She's saying, nonsense words. Shall I move on? We've got another comment as well.
Oh, go on. Hit us with another comment.
This is from Analysing Doctor Who on Twitter. Millie Gibson gives arguably the greatest acting by a companion ever. A performance for the ages, lot of convo on the old woman. Personally, I viewed her as a metaphor for depression, the thing that follows you around and you can't touch it. It scares others away and never leaves.
Oh,
that's insane. That's
a mic drop.
That is perfect.
Wow.
I mean, I've also seen people saying that it's evidence of Ruby's abandonment issues. She was adopted, and then her new mum gives her up, and the Doctor runs away, and people lock her out, and even Unit gives up on her.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a bit of both. It's a personification of those abandonment issues, which we've not explored yet in this series, and also, what you're saying about depression. That is a perfect allegory.
That is so.
That is brilliant.
And
I'm going to like that. It's that has got 3 likes from people who aren't us.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That's brilliant.
I think that's what 73 yards.
3, of course, being a big number.
3, it's massive. Big numbers.
Oh, someone who's liked it has got link in bio written in their bio. So that's a bot. But
I think that 73 yards is that kind of episode where, sure, on the surface level,
God, that's actually changed it a lot for me. That's made this really good.
On a surface level, it's an episode that you might be like, well, they've not explained anything.
Yeah.
But the more you think about it, the more you can. It's
Analysing Doctor Who. Maybe you need to start your own podcast, because
I think you should.
Being mentioned in someone else's podcast and making a better point than both of us. That's worthy of you making your own podcast.
So well done to you.
That's brilliant. That's changed my perspective completely in a good way. Brilliant.
I mean, so good. There we go.
God,
I think that's a great place to end it. Really.
Brilliant.
Let us know what you thought of Boom and 73 yards.
Yeah, please feel free to write in again, and then if you make a brilliant point like that, we'll bring it up next week.
We will bring it up next week. Yeah, and start to give us your rankings. Where do these episodes sit? Give us a bit of a tier list of where
I
things
don't remember
are sitting.
if we did this last week, but ratings out of 10. Boom.
Boom, I'm going to give an An 8.
Okay.
I think,
I'd be very similar, I think. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you would have gone in for a bit higher than me.
Well, I mean, it was a great episode, but...
I'm going to say 7 or 8. I'm going to say 7, I think.
I feel like I'll never give an episode of Doctor Who a 9 out of 10. Or a 10 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah. That's something about it. It doesn't...
I think
especially something made after the peak period of 2008 when I was 7 years old. You know, it's not going to ever have that feeling again. So I don't think I'll ever be able to give it a 9 or a 10 out of 10. So an 8, maybe 8.5. Very good. Very good review from me. 73 yards.
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
That's gonna change, obviously.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the fact to be said that it only happened about 12 hours ago. Less than more than that.
18 hours ago.
There we go. It's not even been a day. But I think it's going to be again, I think it's going to be a very rewarding one in the long run, just like Wild Blue Yonder was.
Yeah. I need to watch Wild Blue Yonder again.
Yeah.
I still haven't watched it again. I've only watched that once.
The thing about Wild Blue Yonder is it's you know, it is what it is. And it's easy to sort of explain and defend. This one's going to be a harder one. When I say to someone, I really like this one, they watch it and they go, what was that all about?
Yeah.
It's going to be harder for me to defend, but I think I'm just going to be like, on an instinctive level, I think I really love it. Yeah. And there's a lot of layers to it that I think we're going to be unpeeling and discovering. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, so before I read that amazing comment, I was probably going to rank it below Boom. But literally in the last 30 seconds, I'm going to put it above Boom.
Wow.
Yeah. And I wasn't expecting that. I didn't think that this morning when I watched it. So what? I've just said I'll never rate something 9 out of 10. So I guess I'll have to put it at like 8.7. But like it was really good. It was really good.
Yeah.
It was And I think I will need to watch it again. I mean, I've already watched it 1.5 times. So I don't know. I will watch it again though. And I did really enjoy it.
It's
despite me complaining about it for almost 15 minutes probably earlier today. I did really enjoy it, and it is probably I don't know if it's an all-time favourite, but it's really good, really good.
I think it's. I'm looking forward to seeing how it kind of, what kind of happens in the long run.
I think when we learn more about Ruby, it could reveal more about that episode.
And in retrospect, it might make more sense for some people, but equally, I don't think.
But
that
they're never going to reveal what the woman was saying. They're never going to go into stuff like that.
But again, like I said, I don't think that's needed, and I think
So don't take this away as us thinking, oh well, they're going to tell us one day what was going. They're not, and I think that adds to it.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
That's been Boom and 73 Yards. We'll be back next week with
next.
Sorry, we won't. Yes, thank you. We'll be back.
I mean, we can come back next week.
No, we won't.
Okay.
We'll be back in a fortnight.
Guys, write in and tell him to bring it back next week.
I've got a very busy week coming up, Ben, and I do need to have some limits. I think we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with Dot and Bubble and Rogue.
Is he Captain Jack? Is he a time traveller? Is he an
alien? We will find out in 2 weeks' time.
We will.
Where can they find you, Ben?
Where can they want to
seek you out?
They can find me on Twitter at Ben P. Davidson, and also on Instagram if you want to follow me there. But I'm more active on Twitter. Yeah. Where can they find you, Miles?
At Tailored Vision on Twitter. And you can find Knowing Who on Twitter as well, at Knowing Who.
And on TikTok at Knowing Who Pod, I think. It's not Knowing Who because
very
that was taken.
Unprofessional.
It's not at Knowing Who because that was taken. But if it's not that, if you go to our Twitter at Knowing Who, it will be in our link tree, link in bio.
And you can give us more
TikTok in bio,
more support, more amazing thoughts. I mean, here we go. Let's delve into Slugs and handsome Jonathan Groffs.
I'm so excited. After these 2 episodes, I'm so much more excited as to where Doctor Who's going than I was for the first 2.
Yeah. So let's see how it goes.
And Dot and Bubble might ruin that. Who knows? And of course,
that's what it's all about.
I forgot to mention, we sort of almost know someone who's in Dot and Bubble.
We do, but we better not say anything more than that or we will be killed.
Yeah. Well, she's in the cast list, so it's okay.
Yes, but maybe we'll save that for next time.
Okay, we'll do.
Thank you very much for listening, everyone.
Yes, thank you very much.
And we will see you in 2 weeks' time
for another episode of
Knowing Who. Get away from me. You've been listening to Knowing Who, another Doctor Who podcast with me, Miles Taylor.
And me, Ben Davidson. Thank you to Sonny King for producing our theme tune.
And thank you to you for listening. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, plus YouTube on the Tailored Vision YouTube channel.
You can also follow us on Twitter at Knowing Who.
Catch you next time for more
Knowing Who.